ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोप कुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. Please someone confirm if I am audible by message. I have put the headphone today, so just to be sure. So we will. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes.
Oh, thank you so much for confirming. Yeah. So ज्ञानमात्रं परं ब्रह्म परमात्मेश्वरः पुमान् दृश्यादिभिः पृथग् भावैर् भगवान् एक ईयते। ज्ञानमात्रं परं ब्रह्म परमात्मेश्वरः पुमान् दृश्यादिभिः पृथग् भावैर् भगवान् एक ईयते। ज्ञानमात्रं परं ब्रह्म परमात्मेश्वरः पुमान् दृश्यादिभिः पृथग् भावैर् भगवान् एक ईयते। Anyone would like to recite? Okay, we will proceed with word by word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace. Srila Abhay Charanarvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Word by word meaning. Jnana, knowledge. Matram, only. Param, transcendental. Brahma, Brahman. Param Atma, Paramatma. Ishvaraha, the controller. Puman, super soul. Drisi Adivhehe, by philosophical research and other processes. Prithak Bhavay, according to different processes of understanding. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ekaha, alone, Iyate, is perceived. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is complete transcendental knowledge. But according to the different processes of understanding, he appears differently, either as impersonal Brahman, as Paramatma, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or as the Purusha Avatar. Purport. The word Drisi Adivhi is significant. According to Jiva Goswami, Drisi means Jnana, philosophical research. By different processes of philosophical research under different concepts, such as the process of Jnana Yoga, the same Bhagavan or Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood as impersonal Brahman. Similarly, by the eightfold yoga system, he appears as the Paramatma. But in pure Krishna consciousness or knowledge in purity, when one tries to understand the absolute truth, one realizes him as the Supreme Person. One realizes him as the Supreme Person. The transcendence is realized simply on the basis of knowledge. The words used here, Paramatmeshwarah Puman, are all transcendental, and they refer to Super Soul. Super Soul is also described as Purusha, but the word Bhagavan directly refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of 6 opulences: wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. He is the personality of Godhead in different spiritual skies. The various descriptions of Paramatma, Iswara, and Puman indicate that the expansions of the Supreme Godhead are unlimited. Ultimately, to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to accept Bhakti Yoga. By executing Jnana Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, one has to eventually approach the Bhakti Yoga platform, and then Paramatma, Ishvara, Puman, etc. are all clearly understood. It is recommended in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that whether one is a devotee or fruitive actor or liberationist, if he is intelligent enough, he should engage himself with all seriousness in the process of devotional service. It is also explained that whatever one desires, which is obtainable by fruitive activities, even if one wants to be elevated to higher planets, one can achieve simply by execution of devotional service. Since the Supreme Lord is full in 6 opulences, he can bestow any one of them upon the worshipper. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals himself to different thinkers as the Supreme Person or impersonal Brahman or Paramatma. Impersonalists merge into the impersonal Brahman, but that is not achieved by worshipping the impersonal Brahman. If one takes to devotional service and at the same time desires to merge into the existence of the Supreme Lord, he can achieve that. If someone desires at all to merge into the existence of the Supreme, he has to execute devotional service. The devotee can see the Supreme Lord face to face, but the Jnani or empiric philosopher and the yogi cannot. They cannot be elevated to the position of associates of the Lord. There is no evidence in the scriptures stating that by cultivating knowledge or worshipping the impersonal Brahman, one can become a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nor by executing the yogic principle can one become an associate of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Godhead. Impersonal Brahman, being formless, is described as Adrishya because the impersonal effulgence of Brahmajyoti covers the face of the Supreme Lord. Some yogis see the four-handed Vishnu sitting within the heart, and therefore, in their case also, the Supreme Lord is invisible. So there is a distinction made here between Supreme Lord and Lord Krishna himself and his Paramatma expansion. Only for the devotees is the Lord visible. Here, the statement Drishi Adibhi is significant. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is both invisible and visible, there are different features of the Lord. The Paramatma feature and Brahman feature are invisible, but the Bhagavan feature is visible. In the Vishnu Puran, this fact is very nicely explained. The universal form of the Lord and the formless Brahman effulgence of the Lord, being invisible, are inferior features. The concept of the universal form is material, and the concept of impersonal Brahman is spiritual, but the highest spiritual understanding is the personality of Godhead. The Vishnu Purana states, Vishnur Brahma Swarupena Swayam Eva Vyavasthitah. Brahman's real feature is Vishnu, or the Supreme Brahman is Vishnu. Swayam Eva, that is his personal feature. The supreme spiritual conception is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yad Gatva na nivartante tad dham paramang mama. That specific abode called Paramang Mama is the place from which, once one attains it, one does not return to this miserable conditional life. Every place, every space, and everything belongs to Vishnu. But where he personally lives is Tadadham Paramam, his supreme abode. One has to make one's destination the supreme abode of the Lord. ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांता स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारणे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीन बंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण। So this chapter there are many sections or sort of passages theme wise. So Lord has in between mentioned like earlier in the beginning pages pure devotees, like devotees who are interested in Krishna Katha, then someone who is entangled they will put all the effort to maintain themselves and family and extended relationship based on the body, right? Based on the body, they will take care or they will maintain, right? All such. And finally, here, Lord is saying that the highest knowledge or the best knowledge or the final knowledge, complete knowledge, we can add all sorts of positive adjectives here. So that is Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? In Hindi or in Sanskrit, we call Purna Purushottam Bhagwan, right? Like Purna Purushottam, not just, Bhagwan, but Purna Purushottam Bhagwan, that is Lord Krishna himself, right? So he is the final and complete transcendental knowledge, right? So that is mentioned in the translation, complete transcendental knowledge. In between Srila Prabhupada in purport, you might have noticed that he also says even Paramatma is invisible, like Brahman and Paramatma both, right? So let's see. What is search? Let's see. See, yeah. See, the Paramatma feature and Brahman feature are invisible. Yeah, so there is a different, means a finer understanding about it. Brahman, of course, we can easily correlate that Brahman feature is invisible, but Paramatma invisible, that is one thing which, it needs very fine understanding, okay, why Srila Prabhupada says. But having, with this disclaimer or my limitation. So I am upfront expressing my limitation, what this thing really means. So I could just understand little bit that like we cannot reciprocate with Paramatma, we cannot deal with him. But just we could maximum in a perfectional stage, one can have only the darshan of the Lord and be relishing his features. That is one thing. But there cannot be any reciprocation or person, adan pradan, like exchange of some, service and compassion and all that. So that is not possible. But beyond that, I don't know really why Srila Prabhupada mentions he is including Paramatma feature in this group, in this category. So that we have to take help of some very advanced devotees. But apart from that, now let's discuss. Actually, there are so many other important points. And the most important is, as Srila Prabhupada mentions in the translation itself, this is the complete transcendental knowledge, right? The final and ultimate, that is final understanding or complete understanding is knowing the Lord personally, right? That is what Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing here, right? So let's see. Actually, let's I collected few points and let's see. We will discuss. Yeah. So first of all, the Lord's, definition of God, Supreme Lord, right? That itself has been given by Parasar Muni, right? That who has everything, right? Okay, fine. We will discuss with this only somehow. Sorry. How to make it full? Okay. Slides. Okay. So yeah, so we all are familiar with this, right? Aishwaryasa Samagrasya. So here also, like the one of the features which was already mentioned in the purport is jnana, right? So full wealth, right? And ever present, right? It's not that today Lord has full knowledge, tomorrow not. It's not like that. So he always has. This is one of the definitive symptoms or characteristics of the Supreme Lord, right? So if someone wants perfect knowledge, so only by understanding or being connected with Krishna, then only one can reach the source of full knowledge, right? And we can also have maximum knowledge as much as we can, like we are allowed to have, only by serving and becoming devotee of Lord, right? Lord, especially Lord Krishna, actually. In some passages, it's very interesting. In Bhagavad Gita itself, Srila Prabhupada mentions that one can serve the Lord in any mellow. Okay, one can be connect liking Sri Ramachandra, one can like Lord Narsimhadev, but finally Srila Prabhupada makes it very clear, but the final and supreme form or the topmost form of Krishna is two-handed, Dvibhuj Shyama Sundar, two-handed Shyama Sundar Krishna residing in Golok Vrindavan, right, and tending Survi cows, playing with his friends, right, Gopas and Gopis, right, and all sorts of topmost bhava is manifested there in Golok Vrindavan, which is called the topmost Vaikuntha planet. So we know the example, right? That also I have noted, but like Gopakumar, right? He was progressing, right? Higher planets, right? So of course, in heavenly planets, other planets, he did not even take much notice at all. But even when he reached different Vaikunthas, so he was not fully satisfied. He was satisfied only when finally he reaches Golok Vrindavan and Krishna immediately embraces him, right? So that we will not get too much into detail of that, but there are so many connected regions and analysis about that. But point is, this conclusion is there that he was not satisfied anywhere else, right? So only like Srila Prabhupada has emphasized on two-handed form, like original form of God, right? That is Lord Sri Krishna, right? So this we know, Gyan, topmost Gyan. So I am substantiating, right, for some time that the topmost knowledge, we will see Brahmavadis and even Paramatmavadi, or you could say the followers of Ashtanga Yoga system, they also don't have complete knowledge, and how they lap up to when, Lord himself, somehow or other, he is available, when he himself presents, right? We will see that. That is one thing I want to cover. After that, we will come to another. Yeah. So here in third canto, this is the topics, but in first canto, second chapter, seventh sloka, this is famous, right? So when we talk about complete knowledge, knowledge means spiritual knowledge. That is a byproduct of basically serving Lord. So we don't have to feel that even some intellectual people, right? There are so many people who are really intellectually inclined. So if even for them, they need not worry that they will miss out on some intellectual aspect of knowledge, Vedic knowledge on this or that. No, all the knowledge which is required, right, to actually go back to the original constitutional place of the soul. So that all such knowledge, that is byproduct of performing exclusive devotional service to Lord Krishna, right? So this one famous, right? Janyati asu means quickly, right? Janyati asu vairagyam jnanam cha yada ayushvam. This vairagyam, actually I was discussing, is quite interesting. I was discussing with one senior devotee. So he was saying that Vairagya, actually typically we associate with detachment from the material world, right, or material things. He was saying there is another meaning of Vairagyam, that Vishesha Rag with Krishna, a special attachment to Krishna. So he was like, I'm just quoting. I don't have any written reference to that, but with the disclaimer I'm quoting. Yeah. So this is knowledge, whatever is required. Further, we will see that Krishna says that he is to be known only by devotees. Okay, the sequences are not perfect, so forgive me for that. But the point is, it was mentioned in the purport also, right? That Krishna is known only by devotional service. Our Lord is known by a service, right? So that was mentioned somewhere. Anyway, let's carry on. Yeah. This bhakti, one word, right? What is the bhakti? It's not a abstract term. It's a basically, yeah, bhakti is not an abstract thing. It's not something intangible. It's very tangible. And as Srila Prabhupada has mentioned many times, on Lord Krishna himself says, right? Jnanam Vijnanam, yeah, right? So, first ninth chapter Bhagavad Gita, right? So, Rajvidya Rajgoyam Pavitramamam Idam Uttamam, right? Pratyakshavagamam Dharmam Sukha. Okay, even first one, right? So, Idam Tute Guhyatamam Pravakshami Anasuyave Jnanam Vijnanam, right? So, Jnanam Vijnanam, that word. So, Vijnan. So, spirituality is not something abstract that there is no result. If performed properly, just like a material science experiment, we do get perfect result. If the application is perfect, we will get perfect result. So it's not abstract. So similarly, here bhakti is not just a abstract word, or it's not a sentimental thing. Maybe bhakti, I am also a devotee. No, it is defined precisely. How? By Prahlad Maharaj, right? Sravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam, right? 9 limbs of devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada says the most important of that is hearing Krishna Katha from authorized source. Yeah. So Bhaktya Mama Abhijanati. By doing that, we definitely know Krishna. So if we, to the degree we follow that, to that degree, Krishna will give the realization, revelation, etc. Right? Of course, we do that under the direction of bona fide spiritual master. We cannot say that now forever I will go to Vrindavan, or like Dhruv Maharaj. He was instructed by Naradji to go to Madhuvan, right? Punyam, Nityada, like you will, he said that you will always get association of Lord. Like that is such a place, Madhuban, right? So go there and perform the basically Ashtanga Yoga. So, not Ashtanga Yoga, meditate on Supreme Personality of Godhead in the heart. He was instructed like that. So he went, that is fine. But Srila Prabhupada has not instructed us like that for in today's age. Our, sorry. In today's time, Srila Prabhupada has recommended some basic things like following four regulative principles and basically chanting minimum 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and essentially reading his books and preaching, essentially, right? So we cannot be completely retired to Vrindavan and live in seclusion. And occasional yatra is of course recommended, but we cannot be living there forever and trying to perfect our own, progress. So Prahlad Maharaj has also not recommended that when he is glorifying Lord. So he also says he actually, in fact, in a very polite way, he criticizes basically those who are only, bhajananandis, like that. So that's what. So bhakti is like 9 limbs, and we have to do under the direction of his spiritual, one of his spiritual masters. Yeah. So yeah. Then Krishna says, then he would attain me. Essentially, he would enter the spiritual world. Yeah. Non-devotees cannot know him. There are several, but I picked this one. Naham 7.25 Bhagavad Gita. Naham prakasa sarvasya yogamaya swamvrta. Yeah. So that is fine. Now let's see. Yeah, this is the crux actually. Why people procrastinate, like this is one of the core things, core thing why, some people are interested in Brahman realization. Paramatma realization is a little bit in between, but especially Brahman realization. It is mainly for those who are neither attached to material enjoyment nor interested to serve Krishna. That is the main thing. They're not interested in enjoying, the sense objects, rupa rasa sabda gandha sparsa, like either in or any sort of enjoyment. They are not interested. They are better than normal karmis, of course. So even those who are aspirant of Brahman realization, they are under the category of transcendentalists. So from this level, transcendental uh, category starts. Karmis are not considered. Even if someone a perfect, karma yogi, they are not considered transcendentalists. They might reach transcendental stage later, but they are not transcendentalists. So Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, these anyone pursuant of any of the three aspects of Lord, they are called transcendentalists. So now some people are like that. They are not interested in serving anyone. They just want to be free from Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, but they don't want to take the positive thing of serving. Serving someone, that idea does not resonate with them. Okay. So now there is another thing. In purport, it was mentioned, you cannot have even Brahman realization or going to Brahmajyoti by worshipping Brahmajyoti. You cannot worship because it's a basically impersonal, right? So the worship has to have basically a personal object, right? Personal entity, right? So Brahmajyoti is impersonal aspect. So you cannot worship Brahmajyoti to go to Brahmajyoti. You have to still worship Lord only. Bhagavad Gita 8.13, famous verse. Om iti ekaksharam brahma vyaharan mam anusmaran. Mam, remembering me. That also, is achievable by remembering Krishna, and not like on their own, like without sanction or without blessing of the Lord, even Brahman realization is not possible. So now we can understand this point. So it's such a deep thing that Krishna is not, sadistic or, like a gangster, that you must come to me, you must serve me, otherwise I will condemn you to hell. No, this is available here, this venue, that if someone is not interested in material enjoyment, but he doesn't want to serve me also, for them Krishna gives them a space, like a place in Brahmajyoti. Now how they are situated in Brahmajyoti, that is not conceivable to me, at least. Right, I'm not coming from Brahmajyoti directly, so I don't have all that experience. I have not uh, come across such explanation from the scriptures so far. Yeah, so I don't know how they live, but of course they are happy because of lack of problem, right? Because of lack of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. They have some bliss. Some bliss is there in Brahmajyoti. Okay, it is not completely free. It is not void of bliss. Some bliss is there, but that bliss is considered as a, one, even less than a drop of water, when it is offered to a person who is very thirsty in a desert, right? Marubhumi, right? So it's not sufficient at all, with sufficient at all for the soul, spirit soul's requirement. A spirit soul actually wants not only some amount of a spiritual bliss, but ever increasing bliss. That is the core thing. A spirit soul will not be happy with certain amount of fixed level of bliss or happiness. That's why this word comes Anandambati Vardhanam. Pratipadam, right? Purnamirta Swadhanam. So this actually is a fact. Whatever spiritual benefit, bliss we feel, we want something better tomorrow. We want better level tomorrow, right? This is the nature of the soul, and that happiness, ever increasing, experiencing ever increasing level of bliss is possible only in association of Lord personally, either in Vaikuntha's but fully in Golok Vrindavan. That's why. So these things, they are basically loser. We can say loser in that sense, not in a condemning way, but definitely loser compared to even Paramatma realized devotees, or of course the pure devotees of Bhagwan Krishna, right? So there is another thing here, one aspect. Brahman realization, one cannot remain there forever. Why? Because of this thing what we just discussed. Soul has a natural hankering to basically to love someone and be loved by someone, right? That is the natural, that is the constitutional nature of the soul. Krishna has, again, created the soul is not a perfect word, but just to put across the point, I'm saying this: the souls have been created by Krishna in that constitutional way only. So it's like we hear some medicines or some things, foods, ingredients, right? So in that way, constitutional ingredients of the soul are such that they are happy only when they have someone to love and someone loves them back. That is the constitutional nature of the soul. Not as an Indian constitution, but constitutional as in constitutional ingredients. So soul is made out like that only. So that tendency is not satisfied in Brahman level. That's why they fall down. They don't have someone to reciprocate at that level. At the level soul needs it. Natural hankering is. That's why this famous verse, 2.32, when demigods worship Lord Krishna's appearance in the womb of Devaki, right? That time they glorify Yanyar Vindaks Vimuktamaninas Toyasta Bavad Suddha Buddhaya Arihya Krichrena Aruhya Krichrena like maybe we can open it. And patanti adho anadrit yusmadangraya, right? Arviya krichrena parang padam tataha patanti adho anadrit yusmadangraya, right? Who don't respect Krishna's lotus feet, right? Then they actually fall down. Yeah. See what happens then is mentioned here. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. So they will come down. So then they are enjoying insignificantly compared to even Paramatma, and what to say about Bhagwan realization, and they fall down also eventually. And then their tendency, when they come to karma bhumi, like earthly planets, then they end up, doing the, taking the activities of altruism, like opening hospitals, doing charity, schools, hospitals, feeding people, all that, which are good actually. Krishna is not condemned these activities. In Bhagavad Gita, like 12.8, 9, 10, 11. So 12.11, you can see actually Krishna is not condemned. He's saying that finally that is the thing. Okay, you can do something like that. Eventually, that will make you advance to higher stages later. Okay, so now we understand that in Brahman realization, knowledge is also like partial knowledge about Lord. It's a very partial understanding, and it's not permanent also. So essentially, they are basically, it's not a win-win, it's a lose-lose situation. Paramatma realization, of course, Lord Dhruva Maharaj. So he did achieve like Paramatma. He was able to see Paramatma and was so ecstatic. Then Lord appears, and actually when he sees, Lord standing in front of him, then basically he falls flat, right? As like a rod, like a dandavat, he just fell flat like a rod, seeing the Lord, right? And one second. And yeah, he was so overwhelmed in ecstasy, he wanted to drink the form of the Lord through his eyes, embrace him, and kiss him. And this is the situation not only of Dhruva because he is a child. That's why I mentioned in bracket here, as well as the kings. Some kings were imprisoned by, I think, Jarasandha or some other. I think Jarasandha only. And they sent out a letter somehow to Krishna when he was in Dwarka. That please liberate us. We were engrossed in material sense gratification. Now we understand it is futile, useless. Please liberate us from this prison. Right? So Lord Krishna went and of course liberated them. When they came out of that prison, when they saw Krishna, they also had this feeling which Dhruva as a child had. They also wanted to drink. It is mentioned in the 10th canto, So they also wanted to kiss Lord. They also wanted to drink his form. Mother Aditi, first time at the end of Payovrata, when Lord Vishnu appeared, right? Vaman, like that is finally when after a few months when he appeared from the womb of Mother Aditi, that's different. But first time when he appeared at the conclusion of Payovrata, right? That time, Mother Aditi, about her also it's mentioned that she felt like, catching the Lord or kissing the Lord, something like that. Okay. The emotions are very similar. So Lord is so beautiful that whether it's a small child, whether they are kings, royal order, or whether Mother Aditi, they all feel like catching the Lord and kissing him, something like that, right? So I'm saying Dhruva, especially Dhruva cares that he saw Paramatma in the heart, but when same Lord appeared, he actually vanished, his Swarupa from Dhruva's heart. Then Dhruva became perturbed suddenly. When he opened his eyes, then he said the same Lord is appearing, standing before him. Then Dhruva actually, of course, rallied. So very sweet verse, actually, Tat darsane nagat sadhvasa kshitab avandatangang vinamaya tandavat drigbhyang prapasyan, prakarsena pasyan, propivan. Again, everywhere see, Sukadeva Goswami is adding that special, not just drinking, but especially fully, he wanted to drink, right? Or because chumban, see, the kissing tendency, right? Chumban ivasyana, bhujay ivaslisan. He wanted to catch the Lord, hug the Lord, essentially, right? Let's see. In ecstasy, looked upon the Lord as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes, kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth, and embracing the Lord with his arms, right? Famous sloka. I like this sloka most in this chapter, right? Yeah. So anyway, the point is final bliss, the perfect bliss, perfect knowledge and whatnot that is available in only the original form of God, which is personal form. Anyway, so Bhagwan is the personality of God, is the last word of the absolute truth. So this verse, related to this verse, like we have a famous verse in Bhagavatam, right? That Vadanti tattvavidas yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavantiti shabdate 1 to 11, right? So it's mentioned there. So I have copied this line from there only. Srila Prabhupada's preferred. Bhagavan is the last word of the absolute truth. Is the final. Everything in full only in Bhagavan, neither in Paramatma and what to speak about Brahmajyoti. And one more comparison. See here, what a contrast. Let's see the contrast. One who has gone to Brahmajyoti, highly likely, mostly, as Srila Prabhupada says, that they will eventually fall down, right, to again mortal world. But in Bhagavan realization, one has achieved association or, servitude of Lord. Say, Yadgatva ananivartante tadhama paramangmam, right? Two places mentioned, basically, same similar sloka, okay? So let's see that quickly. It's important to just have a quick recap of this 8:21. 8th chapter also, attaining the supreme. There also, see, avyakto akshar iti uktas tam aho paramangatim yang prapya na nivartante tad dhama paramangmam. Same actually thing. Actually, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned it's famous from 6th one, 15.6. न तद भाष्यते सूर्यो न शशांको न पावक यद गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद धाम परमंगमम. Both places mentioned, 8th chapter and 15th chapter. Yeah, one does not written, but attaining Brahmajyoti, you highly likely they will fall down. It's very impossible to remain there just like that, because it's not compatible with the spirit soul's constitutional position. We discussed that, right? And yeah, this is the contrast with this one, 1032. Let's see. Highest happiness, again we already discussed, but yeah, like famous. Now we will see the examples of like Sukadeva Goswami himself. Yeah, he was already at the Brahman realization, Brahmavadi already by birth, right? And he did not have a hatred towards Krishna, but he was happy in Brahman realization level. Yeah, he says, "Parinishthito api nirgunya," I was perfectly situated in transcendence. O king, he says to Parikshit Maharaj. I was very happily at Brahman level, but when I heard Lord's Katha, Uttam Sloka Katha, then it captured my heart like anything. And so Chaturaskumar example we also know, right? That when they had argument with Jai Vijay, in Vaikuntha, and when they smelled the fragrance of flower and tulsi, with sandalwood, then they immediately became actually devotee. So Sukadeva Goswami is famous. Yeah. So here this famous Atmarama sloka also, the first canto mentions that Lord possesses transcendental qualities so much that he can attract, including like Brahmavadis. So this, yeah. Yeah, this I already mentioned. Parinishtato api nirgunya uttama sloka leelaya grihita cheta rajarse akhyatam yad adhitavan. Yeah, that he said. Say about here. Uddhava. Uddhava was like, closest friend of Krishna, like no less than Arjuna. Okay, we cannot compare who is superior or not, but Uddhava got Krishna's association very intimately. Even when I heard in like, again, I don't have written reference, with this disclaimer I will say, I heard in lecture from Maharaj that even when Krishna used to take bath, the queens may or may not be allowed there, but Uddhava will be allowed. So that is the level of Uddhava, you can understand. And he was very intellectually oriented also, very wise also. Of course, all such qualities are empowered by Krishna only, just to play his pastimes. So Uddhava was the kind of the prime counselor, to Krishna in any matter. Even though Krishna has already decided what to do, but he will still take counsel from Uddhava. So Uddhava was more or less, oriented towards knowledge of the absolute. I'm like somewhat a Brahmavadi or something like that. Not really, because he was a closest friend of Krishna. So we cannot say he's a pure, just like a typical Brahmavadi. But he was more oriented towards knowledge. So Krishna wanted him to release the higher taste. Krishna wanted that for his friend Uddhava. That's why Krishna sent him to Vrindavan, right? For the transformation of his heart. So then finally, when Uddhava sees the rapture of ecstatic bliss and other things, so many things about gopis, then he basically completely changed, and he understood that the highest the success of any soul is to attain the level of especially the Madhurya, in basically the way gopis are worshipping Krishna, they are absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. That is the highest possible state for any spirit soul. So he understood that, and in their glorification, he sings this 6 verses. This one is the most famous, right? Asam ahot चरण रेणु जुषाम अहंस्यां वृंदावने किमपि गुल्म लतो सधीनाम या दुस्त्यजम स्वजनम आर्य पथम च हित्वा भेजुर मुकुंद पदवीम श्रुतिभिर विमृग्याम. Yeah, let's see Srila Prabhupada's own words. It's important to go by translation is taken from Krishna book only. So yeah, so see, Vedic knowledge also search for that, right? Krishna's lotus feet, right? Let me be fortunate enough to be one of the bushes, creeper or herbs. A point I am again like trying to connect again and again is, the highest bliss is experienced in Bhagwan realization. Knowledge also, like Uddhava got the best knowledge that gopis are the best devotees, right? Gopkumar we already discussed, right? Yeah, a goal. Now Sri Krishna is the goal of all knowledge. He is the final, that several basically references are there. So we will see that in Bhagavad Gita 15.15, famous, right? Vedesya sarve ahame vivedyo. So if someone is so much engrossed into Vedic study or Vedas, literally and Atharvaveda, and if they think that, now, if they are not actually chanting the name of Krishna, right? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then it is not the perfect process what they are doing, because they lost track of what is the objective. Even if karma kanda and other things are mentioned, so it is Krishna mentions that there in all the Vedic knowledge there is an urge to search after me. So see, in any yagya, actually in center Vasudev, Krishna is or Narayana is definitely mentioned, okay, in any sort of yagya or any sort of karma kanda. So why is he mentioned, and what is the goal? That in a regulated way one should gradually elevate to what? To Krishna, basically, to go back to a spiritual world, to eventually generate, taste, attraction towards Krishna, right? That is the main goal, right? Attraction to Krishna, right? So, yeah. So this reference we saw. And if someone, let's suppose, does not read the Vedas and other things, I have seen actually practically in my office previous job, one person from a Brahmin family, he used to mention, तुम्हारे यहाँ ना यज्ञ और ये सब हवन सब नहीं होता होगा शायद ऐसा like that, हाँ. So he is thinking that, we are some premature spiritualist or something like that. So of course you cannot just argue spontaneously just like that. So things have to be presented in a very methodical way. Otherwise, it creates aversion in the hearts of those, right? So point is, yeah, but he did not know. Later I said, I said 15.15 translation with him only. But yeah, in one shot, you cannot expect that everyone understands the essence, right? So we ourselves have taken gradual process. Most of us, at least I have taken gradual process to understand fully that other processes are just peripheral, not required actually. If we are engaged into Krishna's direct devotional service, direct devotional service, when we are chanting, that is direct devotional service, right? It's not indirect, right? So then Krishna gives the sufficient knowledge by his grace. Again, that is by his grace. It is not that Krishna is obliged. Based on our attitude and sincerity, he will reveal that much knowledge, what is required. Yeah. Again, 8.28 is famous. Whatever benefit you get from other processes, that we all get basically just by serving, basically performing devotional service to Krishna. Right. So Vedyasya Yagyasya Tapasya is famous. The last verse of Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter. Yeah. And finally, let's see when basically how Krishna is the Param Gyan, right? Two places it's mentioned in Bhagavatam. One is in first canto, that he is the ultimate object of knowledge. Sorry, the ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna. So if we remain engaged into day and night performing some sacrifices like fire sacrifice, this or that, whatever is recommended for grihastha, like 5 types of sacrifices, to be free from this or that type of reactions, right? So that is all not needed to do explicitly. Srila Prabhupada never taught that, right? Even if it is mentioned in some lectures or other places, but did Srila Prabhupada ask us to do that on an everyday basis? We know. If we chant our minimum 16 rounds sincerely and read Srila Prabhupada books or hear the basically Krishna Katha and serve devotees, the basic 5, the topmost 5 things, right? As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, that is 100% complete bhakti. It's not that we missed out on this process, that process. No. Then where is the faith? Faith is following Srila Prabhupada's words exactly, right? That is the Srila Prabhupada is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's commander devotee. So he is sent by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to spread bhakti in the way it is needed in this age. And we don't need to, we should not just do a lip service. We should have, or we should develop full faith that if we follow these processes, right, the morning program, okay, someday if we miss out on Mangalarti, but chanting as soon as possible after getting up, right, something, there is always hope, right? If we are chanting sincerely about 16, minimum 16 hours, as I've already mentioned, those things if we do, we are not missing out on anything, and we get the best, result, which is, attaining the Supreme Lord's abode, depending on our internal mood or connection, right? So, yeah, nothing is missed out. So this same thing, Vasudev Para here, Narayan Paraveda is second canto, yeah, same thing. 2 slokas are together, Narayan Paraveda, exactly almost same, like, almost same 99%. The words are changed, the ordering is changing, that's it. Narayan Param Jnanam, right? Culture of transcendental knowledge is for getting a glimpse of Narayana. It's not to, satisfy our subtle ego that now I know so much, whether it's Vedas or even Bhagavad Gita, even if we remember all the slokas of Bhagavad Gita, but that is to be used for preaching, purposes, to give praman, that is what is the purpose. Just not that if I remember all 700 slokas of Bhagavad Gita by heart, I should not be puffed up that I know 700. Yeah, it should be utilized. Knowing, remembering sloka is not bad. It's a good thing. And that is a tradition. But everything depends on attitude. As Rupa Goswami says in Nectar of Instruction, progress in Krishna consciousness is dependent on our attitude, right? So attitude has to be different. Not that uh, either way is fine. If I don't remember, I don't have that inclination, I don't have the ability to remember slokas, that's all right. We can quote that. Krishna says in 10.25 Bhagavad Gita, that in translation, we can quote translation. Some very senior advanced devotees do that. That is fine. It's not about Sanskrit thing. It's about Praman. Praman we have to give from scripture, right? Maybe we can tell in our words, but essence should not change. But Praman has to be given, right? We cannot, otherwise, if we don't give Praman at all, then where the line is blurred, we never know whether it is our mental concoction or we are talking from the authorized references. How would we know? So that I have seen happening. Line getting blurred, I have seen many times. Yeah. So yeah, like that. So reference has to be given for some complex topic. For very straightforward thing, we don't need to give reference, right? Right. But I will tell you how it was utilized. I utilized in one situation. So for book distribution, once like I went with many devotees. So our group, nice devotee was there. So some local person, he knew lot of slokas from Vedas. So he came to our stall and just started narrating slokas from Vedas. So another the devotee, he was frustrated. So like our devotee, so he told me, Prabhuji, see, he is talking so much from Bhagavatam. Let's see, please hear. Then I asked him, oh, are you from where are you quoting these slokas? He said, I'm talking from Rigved. Then I said, Prabhuji, I know only Eko Sastra Devaki Putra Gita. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says 10.25, Yajnanam Jap Yagyosmi. That's why we do only this. So point is, if we say like this, then so I'm giving him evidence. No, he cannot refute that Bhagavad Gita is not is inferior and all that, right? So then he just quickly went away from there. The point is, this is one scenario. There are maybe many scenarios. We have to be able to give some reference. Yeah, either English, Hindi, or if you can quote sloka, that is also fine. All that, but we need to know. And Srila Prabhupada, again, I'm veering from the topic little bit, but one thing I want to mention in Ajamil pastime in sixth canto, Srila Prabhupada says when Vishnu Dutas are able to counter, the Yamadutas arguments very thoroughly and solidly, and they chased away the Yamadutas. That time, Srila Prabhupada, maybe 6138 or 39, somewhere, or 30, in 30s, right? That's local. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions the members of International Society of for Krishna Consciousness, they must be very thorough in the books, our books, other lest they be embarrassed in front of others, like that. We should not be embarrassed because of lack of knowledge. So for preaching purposes, Srila Prabhupada's pocket books are enough actually. But for so Srila Prabhupada has very nicely put all the required arguments, logic, and everything in his pocket books itself. Anyway, let's see further things. Yeah, this is another one crucial thing which I covered in the beginning. That why do people are inclined towards Brahman realization, because they don't want to serve Krishna. Yeah, last somewhat connected another aspect of analysis. Once we fall to the material world, why we felt ichchadhyasa samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarvabhutani samaham sargayanti parantapa 7.27. Now this is one of my favorite purports from Srila Prabhupada books, 1.2.5 purport, right? When Munyasad, Sona Kadi rishis, they have asked the questions, and then Suta Goswami is about to answer their questions, right? So this purport is very famous, right? So, forgetting Krishna, we have created so many objects of questions and answers. Srila Prabhupada says press representatives, shopkeepers, professors, students, businessmen, politicians. Everyone is busy day and night in asking questions and replying to others' questions, answering other questions. But we never feel completely satisfied. After that, he says, forgetting Krishna, we have created so many objects of question and answer, but none of them are able to give us complete satisfaction. The full knowledge or full knowledge, final knowledge, which will give us complete satisfaction, that is only Krishna, not Brahman, not even Paramatma realization, right? Krishna give temporary satisfaction only. So if satisfaction, we must take to the question and answer questions and answers about Krishna. See, such a beautiful who we should all be in love of Srila Prabhupada's purport. So I also Srila Prabhupada's purport so much. Yeah, we can or without giving answers, because the Srimad and answers that are related to Krishna, we can derive the highest only by reading and hearing this transcendental literature. One should learn the Srimad Bhagavatam and make a solution to all problems pertaining to or matters. Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna are the sum total of things. So the best knowledge, so many slokas Srila Prabhupada has covered in the purport, which but so many things here mentioned. But point is that perfect knowledge, perfect bliss, perfect happiness, that is only possible and in basically Krishna realization, essentially. Yeah. So I will stop here. If there is any question, comment, rectification, please, you can say. Hare Krishna. Okay. Looks like we don't have any questions. So we will stop here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Hare.